election in St. Kitts on Monday, February 24th. The opposition is trying to pressure Martin in keeping with a court ruling that says there are no impediments to him tabling the motion of no confidence in the Denzel Douglas-led Labour Party administration. Team Unity protested for the third time in February outside the National Bank where the Speaker works. Team Unity leader Dr. Timothy Harris told Win FM that the protesters were able to make their position clear to the Speaker. According to the opposition, the Speaker is creating unease and instability in St. Kitts and Nevis by not tabling the motion. Harris said Martin needs to ensure that the motion is tabled urgently. The no confidence motion was filed in December 2012. Gregor Nassif, owner of the Secret Bay Resort in Dominica and chairman of the Fort Young Hotel Roseau Dominica, is urging St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Dr. Rolf Gonzalez to step aside as chairman of the Shareholders Committee of the regional airline Liat. In a fourth open letter to the shareholders, Nassif insists that since Gonzalez believes Liat can never be profitable, then the airline urgently needs a new chairman and general who can find a new approach for taking Liat and the Caribbean aviation industry forward without a perpetual and unfair burden on the treasuries of St. Vincent, Antigua, Barbados, and Dominica.
Liat has to focus on its core competencies, on its core route. It has to contract, not expand. And when it contracts, the smaller air services you're talking about then fill an essential gap. And then we can have a more open aviation environment. But as long as the governments continue to subsidize an unsustainable airline from a financial perspective, no one can compete effectively because they're competing against government subsidies. So Liat has to find its place, it has to find its sweet spot, it has to find the routes where it can be successful, it has to shed the other routes. It has to shed staff. It's operating from 2 or 3 hubs. It cannot do that. And once Liat deals with these issues, it will find its place, it will be financially sustainable, and you will find other airlines filling the necessary gaps, and our aviation industry will become what it needs to be. But the chairman of the Shareholders Committee has to either let another Prime Minister take the lead and issue the mandate that the priorities to make this thing financially sustainable.
The Antigua Public Utilities Authority has embarked on a water rationing program after indicating that the main reservoir has approximately 6 weeks of water supply. Decreasing surface water reserves has forced the Antigua Public Utilities Authority to reduce the volume of water distributed to consumers and warned that the service would be depressed island-wide until water conditions improve. The utility company said Antigua had received a lower than average rainfall during 2013 and is currently experiencing its dry season. On average, Antigua requires 5.6 million gallons of water per day, increasing to 6 million gallons during the peak tourism months. Health City, Cayman Islands, officially opens as it prepares to perform its first surgery in 2 weeks. Talks over the idea of kick-starting medical tourism in the Cayman Islands began more than 4 years ago. Now, Indian surgeon Dr. Devi Shetty is one step closer to making that happen. Cayman 27's Tammy Solomon filed this report.
The ribbon is cut and the plaque unveiled, bringing Dr. Devi Shetty closer to making his dreams come true.
In the future, when you Google for the best heart hospital in the world, it will be the Health City at Cayman Island.
He tells over 1,000 people at the grand opening of his mega hospital in East End he has another dream.
10 years from now, when you Google for the best heart surgeon in the world, it will be a Caymanian working in this hospital.
Dr. Shetty says this building is like a hospital built on a ship.
And the ship should be parked outside the US water. And I had one such location in mind, that's the Cayman Island.
It's his revolution, driving patients away from the US and onto the shores of the Cayman Islands for specialized, affordable health care. A number of speeches were made at the ceremony, including the previous administration.
And by April 2010, we had an agreement signed. The agreement provided certain concessions and called for legislative amendments and other incentives which would encourage Dr. Shetty to do the project here.
And so phase 1 was built, a 140-bed hospital offering cardiac care. The current government says it will continue to support the project.
As it expands to 2,000 beds and begins offering added specialties in oncology, neurology, and organ transplants.
People are taking their final look of the inside of the hospital before the doors are shut to be sterilized ahead of the first operation, which is scheduled for the 10th of March. Now we're told that the first few patients will likely be charity cases. And if it all goes according to plan,
I will retire. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
now the world will watch to see if the hospital will deliver on its promises. Tammy Suleiman, Cayman 27.
JetBlue made its first ever flight to Port of Spain, Trinidad on Monday, February 23rd, the latest step in the carrier's continued expansion in the Caribbean region. The flight departed New York's John F. Kennedy Airport around 7 on Monday morning after a high-profile launch that included dancers and JetBlue crew members wearing carnival masks. Before taking off, JetBlue's pilot Ron Woodruff led a waving of the flag of Trinidad and Tobago outside the cockpit. After a spirited flight featuring an almost carnival-like atmosphere, the first JetBlue Trinidad flight touched down in Port of Spain around 1:30 in the afternoon and met by an official reception from officials of Trinidad's government and JetBlue. Both sides agreed that the service could prove to be significant for the country, both to increase service for its large diaspora population and to help drive leisure tourism growth, the latter a major new priority for Trinidad. Officials pointed to what they hoped would be a long partnership between Trinidad and a New York City-based carrier. The Cannabis Commercial and Medicinal Research Task Force in Jamaica says it has been given an assurance that Jamaica will this year decriminalize marijuana as the island seeks to establish a medicinal marijuana industry. Medicinal Research Task Force leader Deliana Severett in a statement said that the assurance had come from Science, Technology, Energy and Mining Minister Philip Paulwell. The statement quoted Paulwell as telling members of the task force that ganja will be decriminalized in Jamaica this year and emphasized that Jamaica cannot be allowed to be left behind on the issue. He also reiterated the multiple economic, social and cultural benefits that Jamaica stands to gain if the laws are adjusted sooner rather than later. In March last year, CARICOM countries agreed to discuss the issue of decriminalizing marijuana for health reasons at their intersessional summit in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But regional leaders who met in Trinidad last September said a decision had been taken to have the Guyana-based CARICOM Secretariat conduct further research on the medical and legal implications of decriminalizing marijuana. For the JTV News Caribbean Report, I'm Ino Soman.
And coming up next on JTV News, a cloud of uncertainty hangs over BVI Music Fest 2014. Minister Walwyn speaks on education quality improvement strategy, and the BVI's first exquisite boat show is on the horizon.